Isn't pretty much every running shoe a max cushion shoe at this point? Today, we're comparing two potentially max cushion shoes, the New Balance 1080 V14 versus the Gel Nimbus 27. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod. You're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Now today we're making the comparison of the 1080 versus the Gel Nimbus, and if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of the comparison, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate it if you come back and watch the full video when you get a sec, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you've been watching my videos for a while and you haven't already hit that subscribe button, haven't turned on notifications, please consider doing so now, as it will let you know every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but lately I've been doing daily videos to kick off 2025. Now, starting off today's videos, just with some disclaimers and disclosures, which are I was provided both of these shoes for free for the purpose of review directly from their respective brands. That being said, they don't ask me to include them in any specific content, any specific videos. I'm not given like talking points, talk tracks, anything along those lines. I'm not paid for these reviews or these comparisons, and no one watches my videos beforehand, so all thoughts are entirely my own. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of both of these shoes. Now, as I kind of alluded to in the introduction, I don't think that both of these brands necessarily consider their max cushion options. I do think that the Gel Nimbus definitely is considered the max cushion option for Asics, which kind of makes it like a max cushion daily trainer, a recovery day shoe, really kind of built for easy days or there's days where you're feeling extra beat up and you want a lot of support underfoot. Meanwhile, you have the 1080 V14, which yeah, you could probably categorize as a max cushion shoe, but is also really more of their standard daily trainer when you look at the traditional New Balance Fresh Foam lineup, because you do have the Fresh Foam More, which is more of their max cushion shoe. But max cushion still kind of falls within the daily trainer category anyway, so whether we call this a standard daily trainer or max cushion daily trainer, really it's supposed to handle same thing, kind of your daily miles, your standard miles, maybe have a little bit more versatility than the Gel Nimbus, but we'll break down kind of if that's true or not in the various sections that follow. Now, from a price perspective, both of these shoes come in at $165, which is why a lot of people consider these to be direct competitors, where again, I personally would probably put the Fresh Foam More against the Gel Nimbus, but it is what it is. The brands all have kind of their own price scales and whatnot. So as far as, is this price competitive? Is it expensive? Where does it kind of fall? $165 is pretty typical for either upper end daily trainers or max cushion shoes, but it is starting to get up there in price. We're starting to see a little bit of inflation creep within the running shoe world, specifically for cushion trainers. Now, from a specs perspective, the Gel Nimbus comes in at 10.7 ounces and 305 grams, and the 1080 comes in at 9.9 ounces and 260 grams. So it sounds in ounces like those are fairly similar, but when you look at the grams, there's a fairly big difference. And I'll tell you, holding these two shoes in hand, the Gel Nimbus is noticeably more heavy. Both of these shoes though are not real light shoes. They're not made to necessarily go fast. They are made to be a little bit more heavy because of those stacks underfoot. And speaking of stacks, with the Gel Nimbus, we have a 43.5 in the heel, a 35.5 in the forefoot for a 8mm heel to toe drop. So this is kind of in that super max cushion category of 43 or 40 plus. And then the 1080, it's 39 in the heel, 33 in the forefoot for a 6mm heel to toe drop. So again, like I said, you could probably call it max cushion, but you have 39 in the heel, so it's under that 40mm threshold. Now, moving to the fit of the shoes, the Gel Nimbus, I feel like fits true to size lengthwise, and then from there, I feel like it's a fairly wide shoe overall, but it is more standard-ish fit in the midfoot. So as someone who does have kind of a standard foot, I didn't feel like the shoe was overly wide by any means, at least in that midfoot, but I felt like I had ample space in the heel and the toe box. Meanwhile, over in the Gel Nimbus, also true to size, and I would say that this is also kind of a wide foot friendly, but not necessarily wide overall shoe. So I would say it fits on the wider side of standard. But again, both of these I went with my true sizes, 10.5 in both, and I would not have sized up or sized down. I felt like the lengths were spot on. Now, moving to the upper, the Gel Nimbus has a engineered jacquard mesh, which is an update from the engineered knit in the 26. And I feel like this upper is really, really nice. It's breathable, yet you still have some really good plush cushioning there in the heel. And then you do have some stretch, but the large majority of the stretch is coming from the independent tongue. It's not kind of sewn into the upper. It's not a sock fit necessarily, but you actually have an actual gusseted tongue, which aids, again, even though the shoe is fairly wide, it aids in getting that lockdown in the midfoot and feeling really locked into the shoe and feeling really, really connected. The shoe also has kind of an upgraded lacing system there. And for me, that really worked well. I felt like I was connected to the shoe. The overall sock-ish look, it's not really like super stretchy or overly stretchy. It's really just kind of a plush, comfortable overall experience, and I felt like the upper was really nice. Now the upper is warm, right? With all that cushioning there in the heel, now it is probably a little bit more breathable than last year's model, but the shoe is still warm, as with most max cushion shoes. Moving to the 1080, you just have an engineered mesh upper, which kind of has a lot of the same elements. So you have this very comfortable plushy kind of heel counter here. You have a nice plush tongue that is fully gusseted as well. And so you're getting really good lockdown in the midfoot, despite being a little bit more of a wider overall fit shoe, but also the extra cushion in the tongue and the plush in the upper just creates a nice kind of pillowy, like kind of hugging your foot overall experience where you get really good lockdown in the shoe. Same thing, I don't feel like the upper is super breathable. It's just hard when you get some of these plusher elements in an upper for the shoe to really breathe and not be overly warm. So in the winter, these shoes are great because they're going to give you a lot of that warmth, a lot of that comfort. But in the summer, they do heat up and your feet can get a little bit extra sweaty. And so both of these shoes tend to be a little bit more of winter shoes for me, especially because in the winter, I'm maybe slowing down a little bit just to kind of watch my foot. So I'm not slipping on any snow or ice, and so I'm not as concerned about having something quite as lightweight on foot. Overall though, I feel like the uppers of both of these shoes are constructed really well, and although I'm not a huge, personally, like a big max cushion fan, to be honest, and I like a little bit more lightweight overall, I feel like the uppers do the job, and they are a very like premium plush feeling comfortable uppers. I don't really have complaints. No hot spots, no areas that really irritated my feet. It's just a really comfortable ride for both. Now moving to the midsoles, in the Gel Nimbus, you have that FF Blast Plus with the pure gel in the heel. So there is a little gel disc that still goes under your heel, hence the Gel Nimbus name. They got to kind of keep that in there. And this foam right here, it looks like it's supposed to be very marshmallowy soft, but to be honest, it is a little bit on the denser side when it comes to midsole foams. I would categorize this as like more soft and supportive, but you can see like because there's a lot of foam, like the shoe isn't like, you're not super soft and like kind of transitioning, like it's not pillowy, squishy. It really is more supportive underfoot, like soft and supportive, not soft and squishy. So what's kind of nice in that is like the shoe really does protect your joints. Like your feet, sometimes if a shoe is like overly squishy, your feet maybe get a little bit tired because they're having to work almost in the shoe. That's not the case for these. Like you really do get the support and the protection underfoot. At the same time, because of that 8mm heel to toe drop, you get kind of a decent toe off, you get a good transition. And I do find that this shoe is a little bit softer than the 26, which I found to be a little bit just firmer and kind of dead, to be honest. So not a responsive shoe by any means, but it has a little bit more pickup than you would expect from this type of shoe. All in all though, it's a very stable shoe. Like this is the type of shoe that if you had light stability needs, or like maybe like slight pronation, or slight, I guess, over pronation, because everyone has some level of pronation, but this is the type of shoe that like if you didn't quite need a stability shoe but you wanted something that is going to give you support, like this is the type of shoe that I would recommend for you. So you know, you've got that wide base, you're going to be locked in, and with that new upper on the 27, I feel like it does lock you onto the midsole really nicely. So it's a nice overall ride, but it's not like a super energetic ride, and don't be deceived, it's not like super soft either, but it is nice and supportive. Meanwhile, over on the 1080, you have Fresh Foam X, and this is, to me, I would say that this is the squishiest foam on the market to me, right? At least from a daily training perspective, or even a max cushion perspective, like this foam is super squishy, to where I talked about how some foams, sometimes you feel like your feet are doing a little bit of work. That's this type of shoe. So some people really like that overall level of squish. For me, I do like how it feels, but I don't love how it makes my feet work sometimes. And so for the, the 1080, this is for people who really want something like super cushy, maybe someone who has like some plantar fasciitis and want something soft underfoot as opposed to firm underfoot, right? Like this is very, very nice, and it's going to be kind of a nice squishy, soft, easy underfoot feeling. Going to be a little bit unstable compared to the gel Nimbus in that sense, but the stability has improved from past models of the 1080 for me. I feel like this is kind of one of the more stable as they've given it a slightly wider base as well. I find that with this squish, you also do get a little bit of pop. So it's not like a super responsive shoe, but like you actually do get some decent amount of return. And so if I were to do strides in either of these shoes, which I'd often do strides at the end of my easy run, I would rather be wearing the 1080. And it's a little bit lighter, a little bit lower stack, right? So like as far as like which one's going to give you a little bit more pace versatility, I mean, it's the 1080, but really you're not gaining like a ton of extra versatility in the shoe. But you are getting some weight saving. So it really kind of comes down to which overall experience you're looking for. If you want something a little bit more supportive than the gel Nimbus, if you want something a little bit squishier than the 1080. Moving to the outsoles, the gel Nimbus has the Harlow rubber. Meanwhile, the New Balance has just kind of a durable rubber, and neither of these to me are really like anything to write home about. The Harlow rubbers can sometimes be a little bit slippery. I didn't really feel like that was the case with the gel Nimbus though. And then the durable rubber for the New Balance, I actually found that it started to kind of rub down there on the lateral heel. And so it's called the durable rubber because it's a little bit firmer, a little bit harder. But sometimes I do find that it makes that a little bit easier to kind of grind down on the asphalt. And so both of them get the job done though. I wasn't slipping or sliding around in either of them regardless of terrain or weather. So to me, not a ton to talk about really with the outsoles. They kind of just get the job. Now, as far as my pick between the two, it's, again, I kind of talked about it. It's not like my favorite category of shoe, so I'm not super opinionated when it comes to this. It would kind of just come down to more like kind of what I'm feeling that day. If I feel like I'm pretty beat up and I want something just really supportive, maybe it's like true recovery run, then I would probably go gel Nimbus. But if it was more of just like a daily run, I might go 1080. So I would say this is kind of a draw for me. Both of them are great shoes. Both of them are very popular for a lot of, both of them are very popular for obvious reasons. I just don't love recovery shoes as a whole. So again, like I don't really have a huge dog in the fight in this instance. It really comes down to what my daily desire or preference is going to be for my run. But I think, just kind of final thoughts, we can summarize this pretty easy. Again, I've said this a couple of times. If you want something supportive, you go gel Nimbus. If you want something soft and squishy, you go with the 1080, right? And that really summarizes the comparison there. The uppers, yeah, like there are differences there, but I think both have really good uppers for different reasons entirely. Both of them are going to be fairly warm overall. Both of them are going to be really cushioned overall. Both of them are going to be fairly heavy. So I think the main thing just really, like I said, comes down to what sensation do you want underfoot. Now, if you watched this far, I sure appreciate you. Please let me know in the comments what you enjoyed or what I could be doing better, as I'm constantly looking to improve these reviews. And if you have another comparison that you'd like to see, please drop it in the comments, because oftentimes the ideas for these comparisons do actually come from my comment section of people wondering how different shoes compare against each other. And obviously I can only compare shoes that I have, so please keep that in mind. I may have to say no because I might not have a shoe to review. Now, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Please turn on notifications. And as always, I'll leave you with a question, which is, how much do you care about the weight of your shoes? Is it something that you don't really notice, or is it something that you pay a lot of attention to like me? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.